You are listening to Small Farms Radio.
Welcome to Small Farms Radio. I'm Jamie Johnson. So this year, Cornell's beloved student farm, Dilmun Hill, is turning 30 years old. As the farm crosses this milestone, we're going to take a step back and use Dilmun Hill as a lens to think about the value of student farms more broadly. As it happens, our very own Erica Frenay, who has her own farm and helps to manage our online courses and agroforestry projects, got her start at Dilmun Hill years ago. And she's going to sit down with Ryan Maher, who helps to manage Dilmun Hill. I first met Ryan when I joined the Cornell Small Farms program 6 years ago. And at the time, he was managing our research on reduced tillage. But he recently changed jobs, and part of his new role is to manage Dilmun Hill. Now, Dilmun is just one student farm, but it does provide a perfect case study to examine the value of student farms more broadly. And we're so lucky to have Erica and Ryan here, who both have rich histories in agriculture and with Dilmun Hill, to think about student farms, their role in student life, and their broader value.
So it's so good to sit down with you, Ryan, and have a chance to talk about Dilmun Hill, the student farm here at Cornell specifically, because it's celebrating 30 years, which is making me feel very old, but also just maybe more broadly too about student farms and why universities should have student farms, why they do, and sort of like, you know, kind of the bigger picture of what's the value of student farms. Do they actually help create new farmers? And so you want to first, I jumped right in there. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Erica, for the invitation. It's lovely to have this conversation. I am new to the Dilmun Hill Student Farm, but not new to Cornell. As you know, we worked together for over 10 years when I was a part of the Cornell Small Farms program. But about 3 years ago, I joined the Cornell Agricultural Experiment Station, the network of research farms and greenhouses and facilities that Cornell manages in order to support research, teaching, and extension activities. And I sit in a unique position within Cornell AES as the organic coordinator, where I work across multiple farms that support organic-focused research, teaching, extension. Dilmun Hill is very unique within that network in that it is a student-centered farm, and it's primarily undergraduate, but certainly not exclusively. And Dilmun Hill, as you say, has been around for 30 years, and I'm just getting acquainted with the history and the people that have been a part of it for that period of time and helping to create a path forward. And in that role specifically, I work to advise, mentor, and train students in all the activities that happen on the farm, help make connections with faculty that are interested in using the farm in various ways, and think about broader, either campus-based or community partnerships that the farm can support.
So can you give us a sense of like how big is the farm? How many acres and what kinds of activities are happening there currently?
Sure. The farm is 12 acres. It's tucked away. It's on the southeast side of Cornell's Ithaca main campus. It's walkable to the rest of campus. It is a sloping land, let's say. The farm originally, actually, much of it was part of the Cornell orchard itself, where apple trees primarily were grown. A large percentage of it was formerly an orchard. Another percentage of it was in animal science. One thing I didn't mention is that it's never really been ideal vegetable ground, essentially, right? So it's been animal science or orchard, but not necessarily vegetables. And but that is really what we're doing there now. We're primarily growing market-style vegetables, with about a half an acre, mixed vegetable operation, herbs, and flowers. I would say that the rest of the land is dedicated towards perennials and community spaces, as well as some infrastructure for supporting the farm operation. It's very human scale. It's built for walking. It's built for hands, for people to work around the fields, and for large groups to tour those fields.
So, and among the other perennials, I know just from the tour that you gave me recently, there's a pawpaw orchard that you sort of uncovered from a hillside of brambles. There's a significant hazelnut planting that was done quite a few years ago. You have some mushroom logs going, so some agroforestry activity.
Yeah, so I didn't really speak to the perennials, but that is really, a lot of it is inherited as students or faculty imagine projects, and then they get kind of left behind. So we like to think of those as assets now, actually. The pawpaws are a good example of that, planted in 1999 and were on a hillside that was highly erodible and certainly not suitable to vegetables, but students imagined it as a perennial kind of permaculture-based planting back then. But as can happen with a lot of perennial plantings that are not maintained or that require continued student and or faculty involvement, some of those things can kind of be lost, right?
For sure, yeah.
The last several years we put in a lot of work to help clean up that hillside and kind of see what was there, and amazing to see the productivity of the trees after so many years. The hazelnuts are another example of a project led by faculty and one of my predecessors that are a real resource for sure for farmers and for teaching, but have been, say, maybe underutilized over the last several years since they were originally planted. So we certainly have these perennials mixed within the vegetable operation. Log-grown shiitake mushrooms are the most recent way of us kind of expanding and diversifying the farm.
And how many students are really actively involved?
So the farm has a maybe unique model where we have anywhere from 4 to 6 students that are empowered as student managers. So we can like to think about student involvement on this gradient of involvement. So, from March right about now until the end of the year, we have this core group of students, this cohort of students that are the student managers that are making production level, marketing level, outreach level decisions around how the farm will work for that given year.
And is that a job for them? Like, do they get paid?
So they are employed, yeah. So they're employed part-time in the spring, full-time in the summer, and part-time again in the fall, balancing the academic year. And you can imagine the challenges with balancing farming and going to school. So you have the student manager piece, this cohort, and they are really the kind of the foundation of the annual production systems. You have a student club that's also involved, right? So it's more of I like to call it the farming community and less so of the farmers. However, they can be actively involved in work parties and events. But this is how other students can be involved and develop projects or sponsor events or be involved in education and outreach initiatives that bring in more students. And it's actually the easiest way to get involved, to learn about the farm and what's happening there. So you have the managers that are very well invested, that are employed, that really take ownership over the farm. You have the club activities that kind of forms the umbrella in the community around the farm. You also have faculty that are involved, faculty that bring their classes out to the farm, tours or for labs.
Rebecca Nelson, who we interviewed in our one of our most recent podcast episodes, is one of those faculty.
There have been, we mentioned 30 years. There have been of history at Dilmun. There have been some faculty that have been coming there for a very long time, from soil science to insect ecology, across the board within cows and outside of cows. Faculty are also involved as an advisory board to the farm. And then you have these campus, I'm trying to step back to think about all the other people that are involved. And campus and community partners, like small farms, I feel like is a growing partner, perhaps, with the farm as a site for demonstration, and farmers increasingly trying to figure out how we can be a resource for farmers and how we can also, whether that's through events or through programming that we can sponsor that's farmer informed and student led, I should say.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe this is where I should mention my own history with Dilmun Hill. I got involved with the farm in its 3rd season of existence, so I guess that makes that 27 years ago. Because I worked across, there's a recreation trail that runs alongside the farm, and I was actually working that summer at a lab that was on the other side of the trail. And this brand new student farm was advertising something they were calling a volunteer-supported agriculture, or VSA, instead of CSA, community-supported agriculture. At the time, I was I was either like a junior or maybe a senior. I guess I must have been a junior undergrad at the time, and newly vegetarian. So this idea, I didn't really know the first thing about farming, but this volunteer-supported agriculture program was that you could come and work for 2 hours a week pulling weeds or whatever grunt work they needed done, and you could take home a big grocery bag of vegetables for your efforts. And that was very alluring. It was my first experience, and then I got deeply involved then with the student group at the time. What we lacked then was someone like you who provided that consistent annual sort of oversight and continuity. We didn't have that. There were some faculty involved at the time, including our director of the Small Farms program, Anu Rangarajan. That's how I first met Anu. And we also did not have funded student manager positions. So it was my very first experience of writing grants. Of
funding your own position.
I funded my own position. That became the first of many times that I had to do that in my early career. And you mentioned that part of the farm had been occupied by the animal science department. So one of my first jobs, after that first summer where I did the volunteer-supported agriculture program, then I raised money and was one of 3 farm managers the next summer. I think this would have been the summer of 1998. And then the university at that time, anyway, wasn't willing to commit to long-term supporting the farm. So it's really thrilling to me that it has been here for 30 years and that there has been more investment in it, because we couldn't think about really the future and like the kind of infrastructure developments that were needed, because there wasn't certainty from the university side about like whether it might get turned into a parking lot at some point. But there were some really cool things going on there. I met my friend Marguerite Wells, also known as Bizou, there in 1997 or 6, something like that, using horses to cultivate the land.
I've heard that story from Michael Gloss.
Yeah. And some of the grants that I wrote to fund my position that summer of 1998, we were also really focused on what sort of community collaborators we could develop. And so we had a partnership with GIAC, the Greater Ithaca Activities Center. It was an incredible and hard learning experience for me, being in my early 20s and trying to do this work and never having done it before and not having much guidance or mentorship. So there's so many hard lessons learned, but basically we partnered with Greater Ithaca Activities Center to bring busloads of kids repeatedly throughout the summer up to the farm to have the experience of planting seeds, then tending the things that were growing, and then coming back and being able to harvest.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Logistically and programmatically and culturally, like lots of challenges that we encountered there. It was a really incredible learning experience. And then we also had a partnership with Loaves and Fishes Kitchen, where we would donate produce and then bring folks who were regular clients of Loaves and Fishes up to the farm to see where some of the vegetables that they were eating were coming from. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear these stories now, because there's threads of this, of all of these activities now. They're just taking different forms.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I have had a farm in my life ever since Dilmun Hill. Like, that was my first farm experience, and it was such a seismic impact on my life that it took me a while to figure out. I mean, I went from Dilmun Hill, I left Ithaca for 7 years, but I was working on other farms or having other farm experiences. Came back to Ithaca, started working for the Cornell Small Farms program in 2005, and then founded my own farm in 2010. And I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had that experience as a student, with the freedom to learn and make mistakes and try out new things in an environment that felt like there was a lot of freedom to do that. So I guess maybe that's a good segue then to the next conversation about, like, what is the value proposition of a student farm? Like, what do you see the students that you work with getting out of it, and the community members who are part of it, and the faculty? Like, what are some of the reasons why a student farm is so critical?
Well, I think you just highlighted maybe the top experience that I hear from students is this leadership opportunity, a place where they have agency and ownership, collaborating in very deep ways with other students, forming a team and bonds with other students that they would not have through other experiences at Cornell, troubleshooting and making mistakes, solving problems like in the field, like day-to-day problems, but also trying to navigate like institutional problems too. Like, we're farming as a part of an institution at Cornell. So what does that mean? So it's really been an empowering kind of leadership opportunity for every student manager that I have worked with. And I would say that is first and foremost, when you think about the students that are directly engaged through that experience, perhaps not formally defined as the student manager experience when you were there, but those that are employed and that are given the freedom and the flexibility and also the land to manage and to have that opportunity. They are very grateful, and
it's so much more. I mean, I think it can be a powerful experience, of course, to go intern on a farm, like work for someone else, but it is a very different experience to be on the student farm, where you can have so much leadership and impact on the operation itself instead of having to conform to somebody else's systems.
Yeah, and I feel like my job is to help provide like the guiding questions. Here's things to think about to help provide that continuity from year to year, and here are the farming systems that we use. Here's the equipment that we use. Here's our record keeping systems. Here's the materials. Here's how beds are aligned, and how long they are, and how wide they are, and where are the resources, where are the people to connect with. But when it comes down to it, the students are the ones that are developing the crop plan. The students are the ones that are coordinating and managing the CSA, to connect or recruit campus students and faculty and staff primarily to join the summer CSA, and to plan for what vegetables are available each week, and to share those emails about the crop highlights or recipes. And they're the ones that are managing that market. They're the ones that are connecting to the student-led grocery store here on campus to provide them with produce, and kind of navigating that buyer-farmer relationship with Annabelle's Grocery. They're the one providing the tours or the social events too, especially in the summertime. You talked about GIAC. We might not have as many youth involved now, but we certainly host 4-H programs each year. We host other summer programs. Master Gardeners coming this summer, various community organizations, folks that reach out. And the students are the ones that are providing the tours and are becoming the educators as well, not just for other students, but for other people in the community. So, I mean, The leadership piece of it is tremendous. I think that not many students come from an ag background, and not many students come from even working on a farm. So it's kind of amazing, actually, how much they take on and in a given year, and how much they can learn by doing in this way. And I think that we just went through the hiring process of new students, and the student would ask me, well, what do you look for in a good student manager, right? And yeah, farming experience is very helpful, but it's the organizational skills, it's the ability to work in a team, and it's openness to listening to others, and just that team dynamic, and being accountable, all those things that make them the most successful on the job. And they're learning as they go, and they have resources like myself or others at Cornell in order to navigate the production challenges.
Right.
So
yeah.
So that's the kind of those skills, I think, are key. But I do think farming skills are huge. There's definitely a cohort of students that have left and have become farmers, like yourself, Erica, where this is like their first opportunity, and it has changed the way that they changed their life, essentially, like what they decided what they want to do, and they started working more on farms, and now own their own farm. So it is. I mean, it does teach practical farming skills.
Yeah.
Think about anything from seeding in the greenhouse to managing pests to planting and spacing and harvest protocols, and all the logistics around farming that they would not have otherwise, and the planning of those activities as well. The prioritizing of activities. So on those weekly meetings where we have, and they're saying, what are we going to do this week? It's not someone telling them this is what you have to do this week, but everybody sitting down together and prioritizing. So they're navigating the farming experience, and sometimes they go on to farm, which is amazing. So that is a value. To get back to your question, that is a value that it provides. It can help to spur new farmers.
For sure, yeah, that's great to hear. I also think that the inverse has value if it helps students understand that they don't want to farm, but maybe they feel drawn to something in that space. I happened to mention to Graham Savio, the head of the agriculture team at our local Cornell Cooperative Extension office, and he's really spearheading a lot of work to promote and develop agroforestry in the state. And Graham worked on the student farm at UC Davis. And he said it helped him learn that he did not want to be a vegetable farmer, which is also very valuable information to have. Otherwise, you can waste a lot of time and money going down the wrong path, But there were olive trees on that student farm. He became completely enamored of the olive trees, and that was the beginning of his interest in agroforestry. Also, as a side note, he met his wife at the student farm at UC Davis. So, who knows what kinds of impacts and ripple effects it can have.
They definitely have those. Yeah, I was reading a reflection by one student that was involved, and by being involved on the farm, they then got connected to the bee club, which also manages hives on the farm. And now she's working within a state, natural resource services, and thinking about pollinator habitat. So it's not necessarily like the direct impact on farming, but it's these connections to things that you don't know where your interests. You know what your interests are, but
you just keep pursuing those threads, and the farm gives you the place to do that.
So that's what I wanted to say also about this, in line with what you're saying, is the students come from all different backgrounds. And like myself, I went to SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry with no farming experience, no connection to food or agriculture. And now I've worked in various research and extension positions in small farming. But I was connected through food and through ecology, and these are the things that I was interested in. Everybody's interested in food, but what makes good food? And I was really interested in soil science and ecology and environmental stuff. And I went in with environmental studies. Like, what am I going to do with this, right? So how many Cornell students come in and say, I want to be an environmental science, I'm going to be an environmental science and sustainability major. I'm going to be in plant science. we're going to be in global development. But I don't know if that's going to be in agriculture, right? So Dilmun is an opportunity for them to make a connection to agriculture through their major that could shape where they end up going, in the same way that farm, eventually for me, it was getting on a farm and making that connection, not necessarily through my academics. But I do feel like it's an entry point, maybe, especially for new students to explore their interests and figure out where they want to go, if they want to do more work in food systems or if they want to be in research. We can. I would like to add another element. I mean,
Go for it.
As far as the value add, I mean, classes are a growing part of Dilmun, I feel like. I mean, there's always been a portion of Cal's curriculum or otherwise where classes would come out and use the farm for tours or labs. But I feel like we can make a lot more connections, and it's a really good way to basically get out of the classroom and do a lab in the context of a working farm in walking distance. So faculty use it in order to, get hands-on and measure bulk density in soils, or to sweep through and see what's living in the goldenrod or the meadow hillside that hasn't been planted. There are countless numbers of classes in Cal's and beyond at Cornell that could use the farm. Last fall, we had a class in art and writing. We've had poets on the farm. So there's so many different ways that the farm can inspire students within their classes. And so I think making that even stronger connection in the future is one of my goals. But it's definitely a value add right now. Yeah.
I just finished reading the book Feed Us with Trees by Elspeth Hay. Have you seen this book? It's a really, is an environmental science writer, but she goes deep down this rabbit hole of like this no farms, no food idea that like, is it true that we have to like essentially, plow up the earth in order to feed the world? And she looks a lot into indigenous history of like the harvest from acorns and other nut trees and things like that. But the kind of the central thesis of the book is around like landscape and place-based stewardship, and this idea that if you care, like a lot of environmentalists think that the way to protect the environment is to remove humans from it. And that's what Elspeth Hay, this author, sort of grew up thinking, was that we humans, wherever we go, we just destroy things. But what she learns through the research for this book turns that on its head and basically says that actually we humans need to be more deeply involved in ecosystems in order to steward them for the best outcomes for everyone. And so even if students don't decide to become farmers as a result of interacting with Dilmun Hill, I feel like the breadth of projects and experiences and everything that it makes possible is helping those students to learn more about like how to be more involved in ecosystem management and place-based stewardship. And that's a really critical skill that just isn't taught everywhere. A lot of people don't get that that kind of education, that kind of experience. And as New York's land-grant university with a mission to provide basic applied agricultural education, Dilmun Hill just feels like a really fundamental piece of that puzzle.
I would totally agree. I would totally agree. I think this idea of connection to land and stewardship is huge for me. Like that idea that it's a special place, like a corner of campus that students connect to, and it's not just because it is a part of their program or because it's Dilmun Hill, but it's a piece of land that that they manage, that they put their heart and soul into working, and that they develop connections with other students on and friendships on, and it provides a real sense of place. The land does. It might not be great for growing vegetables. And the land isn't treasured for that. We can make it happen. But it's treasured for so many other things. In connection to that, I would say that there's a lot of students that feel that the farm is a way to kind of unplug or disconnect from all the other noise and all the other stresses that their courses and their academic
Yeah.
year have.
That
are
can't be
putting on
overstated in this time of like mental health crises.
So yeah, as far as adding value, sometimes it's a way to disconnect from that, to do work where you don't have to think as much, and that you're doing physical work, whether it's planting or weeding, and you're having conversations while you're doing that with other students, and it really provides a sense of emotional and social well-being, I think, for a lot of students. And then when you add on like potlucks and the food and dealing with the harvests in creative, fun ways, and maybe involving some music and other kinds of activities, art-based workshops with flowers or potato printing, like it just gets more creative, maybe more spiritual, more health-based. So, we just had a conversation with folks at another program here at Cornell that is really focused on that, is well-being, and it's housed within Cornell Health, right? And so how do we support student well-being? And I feel like the farm is doing that.
Absolutely.
We just how to make connections with Nature RX.
Yeah. So what's the minimum investment needed by this university or by any university, you think, to have a successful student farm?
That might be your hardest question for me, Erica. The minimum investment needed. I don't know if I can provide or if we're here to provide the guidebook for new student farms. But what I see as a real value, at least for this farm, from my perspective, is having a home like Cornell AES that provides continuity year to year. I think that, like you said, that struggle early on of content, we're still deal with that because we have new students every year. But you need a home and you need a connection in order to buffer against those changes year to year. You need a piece of land that's going to fit the scale of operation that you want to teach, no doubt. You need infrastructure that's fit to the farm. For us, we want students that are employed, that get paid and rewarded for their work. So broadly speaking, we need funding, right? We need funding for students. We need funding for paid staff that provide continuity. And we need funding for infrastructure to support the farm, whether that's a barn to store equipment and store our produce, to a community space where we can host classes or where we can host events.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good segue to like what is your vision for the next 30 years of Dilmun Hill? I mean, I know you won't be here for all of that, but like if you could like just make a wish list or like wave a wand and make changes to Dilmun Hill, like what do you wish was happening there?
When I say me, it's really we as a student body, as a group of faculty, as a college, no doubt, thinking about how the farm could evolve. I think there's tremendous potential in Dilmun Hill. I would love to have more opportunities for students to get involved. That is somewhere in between the student manager and that club. Not every student is looking to become a student manager and to commit, quite honestly, to a full year. Then informally, the club provides a great structure, but there's so many students that could be involved in the academic year or in the summer with targeted projects or targeted responsibilities. One example would be the agroforestry project that we have going on right now for a student to take ownership over the log-grown shiitake mushrooms, to think about the marketing of them, the production of them, the expansion of them to oysters and other things. Now, a couple other things that we've talked about over the course of my time here is this idea of entrepreneurship and connecting more towards the value added, or maybe even Cornell's hotel school or other kinds of like farm to table type initiatives that are happening here. I think that students at at Dilmun really value the connection to Annabelle's Grocery, which is what I mentioned, a on-campus grocery store. But perhaps there are other ways that we can infuse Dilmun Hill's produce onto the table of students or faculty formally, whether through the hotel school or otherwise. There's definitely a lot of interest in processing and workshops on the farm, but we're perhaps limited there now, but maybe we could do some more of that on campus and feature a pawpaw ice cream in the Cornell dairy or whatever students have a capacity to do. I mean, I'm sure these ideas have been thrown around for the last 30 years. The other piece that I'll add to this is kind of building off your the GIAC experience that you had. I really feel like we could be engaging more with the Ithaca community. I think we have a campus community that we are deeply engaged with, and we can reach out through more intentional partnerships with Cornell Cooperative Extension, with farmers, and bring in new sectors of Cornell at the same time. You know, this idea of silvopasture at Dilmun has recently emerged, right? And so there are people like yourself, Erica, that are in this space, right? And that are operating within cooperative extension, but there's also animal science here at Cornell. So, and Dilmun could potentially be a place to integrate, or let's just say demonstrate some of these practices, right?
Yes, can I pause you right there,
Yeah.
just because you mentioned silvopasture? I want to make sure people understand what silvopasture is, which is basically the intentional combination of grazing livestock with forage and trees. And we've mentioned a few times the pawpaw steep hillside
Sure.
orchard of pawpaws. What we didn't say is that Dilmun Hill is like a stone's throw from the teaching and research barn that's part of animal science at Cornell. And so one of my hopes for the very short term, like for this coming year, is that there will be sheep grazing for a couple of days under that pawpaw orchard, because it's a rather hazardous hillside for you and your team to try to maintain with equipment. And the sheep are right there across the street. So
close.
they're so close. We can't walk them over, unfortunately. They'd have to cross Route 366. But that is, I think that would be pretty fabulous if that can happen in the short term. And Jess Waltmeyer has been a great partner in trying to work on the logistics of that.
Yeah, so, I mean, we could be having this conversation in a year and saying, man, that was a terrible idea. I can't believe we ever thought of doing that. But, you know, that's what it's about, is to provide a demonstration and an experiment, and for students
And
to
learn some lessons.
be involved in that process. But in that theme, who are we getting involved? We're getting Cornell Small Farms involved. We're getting animal science extension. We're getting cooperative extension. We're getting farmers that are trying these things.
Facilities managers.
Facilities managers, and we're getting students involved. So to me, it's not agroforestry or silvopasture alone, but it's this model where we have students engaged with all these other partners, community-based and campus-based partners, to do new things with the resource that we have, the land and the farm. So that's the model that I feel like we could build off of in future years. I think the last thing that I'll say, and this might be kind of fitting, is that we have an alumni network of that includes you, Erica, and the 30th anniversary has kind of reminded us of how we've kind of lost contact with students, and with that network of graduates from Cornell, and the things that we can learn about where they are now and what they're doing, and how Dilmun was impactful for them. They can help us tell stories about the farm. We can tell lots of stories about the farm with the students we have here now, but we can tell deeper stories with the students that are graduated 20 years from now. So the 30th anniversary has really highlighted the value of us kind of making those connections. And I think that over the next 30 years, I think just essentially building that alumni network is a real goal. So students can learn where they might end up, what are the values of Dilmun, what could I be doing? Yeah, so I mean, if I have time, I'm just going to keep going with the list here, Erica. But you know, in the end, the students are going to tell you that one of the greatest assets that the farm provides is community, right? And we would love to see that space used for events, for workshops, whether they're social gatherings or hands-on learning, summer programs. I can't go through the wish list without saying we need more infrastructure that's able to house these types of community events.
Well, this has been so delightful. You are a very excellent spokesperson for the many benefits of Dilmun Hill. And I wish that I'd had someone like you as the mentor and kind of guide for the three of us who managed the farm together that summer of 1998. And I appreciate how creatively you think about the farm and the many, many connections that it can have, and how relevant it is to the land grant mission and the value that it brings to these students' lives. So thanks so much for taking time to talk with me today.
Yeah, thank you. I am so treasured to have this conversation and learn about your connection to the farm. To work together for so many years and to not have this conversation is kind of amazing. So to reconnect in this way has really been special.
Yeah, those were some sweet memories from that time. It was a very, very formative experience for me. So thank you.
I think what this conversation really highlighted for me is that the full value of student farms is impossible to quantify. They certainly expose students to farming, provide leadership opportunities, and a space to build community. But each of those points has ripple effects that spread out through communities of people and influencing them for decades. Thinking about all of that made me realize that Dilmun was the first farm I ever worked on. Yes, as a student volunteer, but still, maybe I wouldn't be here talking to you today without it. So way to go, Dilmun. May you influence students for years to come, and happy 30th birthday. That's all we have for you today, folks. If you want to show some love for Dilmun Hill or a different student farm, you can email us at smallfarmsprogram@cornell.edu, or you can give us a call at 607-255-4455 and leave a message. If you like this show, please subscribe. That will let you know when we have something new for you, and it also helps us promote the show. See you next time.